Y'all, today we need to talk about something that's already creating chaos in the most recent Darkmoor update. And the topic of the day, believe it or not, is a reagent. And you might be wondering, Sauce, reagents are used in crafting. How could they possibly be causing chaos? Well, that's because we're not going to be talking about any ordinary reagent today. We're going to be talking about the reagent that got introduced for the Darkmoor update. So if y'all don't know, right, in every single world recently anyways, they've done this thing where they allow you to craft various endgame loot, and part of the recipe for that max level gear is ground reagents that you could pick up off of the ground in every one of the most recent worlds. Y'all might remember back when Wallaroo dropped, in order to make like Reaver and Stalker gear from scratch, you had to pick up Dreamstone off of the ground, and the reagent to make all of the new Darkmoor gear is called Ichor, so you can pick this up off of the ground. And while there's another reagent that you also need to craft everything that you can only get through combat, something that's very, very different this update is the fact that there's a third reagent that they added. And this reagent, called Aged Ichor, it is only available if you get lucky. There is no transmutate recipe. Let's keep that in mind, right? For example, let's say that you want agave nectar. Yes, you can pick up agave leaves off of the ground, but there are recipes where you can transfer 15 of these into a nectar. There's no way to convert this into aged ichor, right? If I go here, I either get aged ichor or I'm out of luck. And obviously this is a very, very small sample size, but I have harvested 64 ichors. I've only gotten 2 aged ichors, and the conversion makes, in my opinion, almost no sense, right? For example, to make like something that's very, very good, right? Like the new robe that's like, you know, at the max level. Not only do you need to get a preposterous amount of actual combat related reagents, you have to get 104 regular ichors, and however many times you have to harvest to get 19 aged ichors is what you have to do to get this robe, for example. I'll say this, not all of the recipes are as crazy. For example, the new decks, I would argue these are very, very good. They don't give pip conserve, which I think is a little bit of an iffy one, but they give every other stat in a circle jewel, and they even give a 0 pip trap aura, which I can imagine is just useful as like a regular item card in PvE. It's just a buff, or even in PvP, right? This is like an extra copy of a very useful card. This at least is a little bit more easy, like it's a little easier to craft, right? You only need 7 aged ichor, but the fact that you need a rare reagent and they haven't added a transmutate recipe is a really, really big recipe, no pun intended, for disaster, right? You're gonna have a bunch of people mindlessly go from realm to get a bunch of reagents, and the worst part about this is the fact that this all operates under the new reagent system that they added, which opens the door to something very, very terrible. Now, the new reagent system, you could actually test this out a lot more readily in like lower area worlds, but the way that it works, right, especially in small areas, you're guaranteed 1 reagent, or, you know, 2 reagents, whatever the number is for that area. And then when you collect it, what ends up happening is it'll respawn in that same area. So what a lot of people are trying to do, because it's an extremely high demand reagent, they'll go to an empty realm, go to a small area like the Outsiders camp, and they're basically going to keep on trying to get this stuff. They're really struggling, first off, to actually get the aged ichor to begin with, but also it's creating this thing where I'm in a random empty realm, right? I'm in Unicorn, and by the way, this is true if you go through all of these realms. There's people everywhere trying to get this stuff, and because it's just not dropping the aged ichor, we have a bunch of people competing for these reagents in a very, very frustrating way. Added on to that, there have been massive reports of people botting this reagent, and what they basically are doing, because the reagent keeps respawning, they're running various scripts that auto-collect reagents. So you have a really, really bad situation, right? The reagent itself is very unreasonable to get. You have a bunch of legitimate players trying to outcompete each other, trying to collect these reagents over and over again, never to get the drop that they're actually going for. And you have another incentive in another activity, like something as harmless as reagent collecting, where there's now rampant botting. Now, I think there's a lot of ways that Wiz actually could address this, and in fact, I think the real solution is in something a little bit, like, you know, more widespread. First off, we have never seen them do this little rare reagent as part of the recipe. If you're gonna add that as part of the recipe, I simply don't think 19 is a number that feels valid at all, right? There was no rare version of Dreamstone that we ever had to collect or even get, like, you know, a transmutate for in order to craft anything. This is just a new thing that has artificially made this gear harder to get in a way that has nothing to do with combat. It's just literally time spent mindlessly roaming around an empty realm collecting reagents. Number 19, it's just too much. I think that's already like the starting point in terms of my personal feedback. But then also, this individual should definitely sell, like Cesar or whatever his name is, he should definitely sell a transmutate recipe. There's no reason why we should be expected to collect a bunch of these and either just get lucky or just get disappointed. That's stupid. Beyond that, I think every single time they put out an update where there's like certain things that are very, very hard to get, they've kind of defaulted on badges. I guess I say every time, but I'm really talking about the Aquila Summer update. But if y'all don't know, right, what ended up happening over the summer was that they put out a big Aquila Summer update, added a bunch of spellments for Aquila spells, but these were very, very hard to farm. You will find very, very few people with these maxed out. This took so many hours of farming and also packs thrown in. But when they got the feedback that this was like a very weirdly hard spellment update, they basically did a thing with badges where if you actually were to grind out this update, you could actually redeem certain badges to get spellments. And these badges were actually, in my opinion, a very, very good like example of like Wiz actually listened to feedback. These are all, they drop like a lot. They drop like I think 40, 50 spellments. So for example, for you to learn one of these, it only takes 35. So if you were to do all the badges that are in Aquila that do drop these spellments, you could get probably to tier 2 and then some, which was, it's nice, right? You have access to the spell, you can customize it either path. You could even maybe, with just a little bit of extra farming, get to tier 3, which is very fine. It's crazy to me that Darkmoor has 113 badges. Y'all might not realize this, but this is the most badges we have ever seen. And a lot of these badges are actually like kind of weirdly hard to get, right? If y'all have done the Zone of Fortune, you have to fight a bunch of tarot cards in this. Every tarot card has like a weird hanging effect that it uses, and then the battle gives you a card to address that hanging effect. And every single time that you don't use the card that the battle gives you, you can get a badge. So for example, right, I basically did the Emperor battle, the Emperor card, tarot card battle without using the card that I was given. I got a badge for it. I think all of these badges should be good candidates, in my opinion anyways, for dropping things like Aged Ichor, for dropping things like the new Reagent. I see no reason why they went crazy with the badges because it's really cool. I kind of love that, but then they didn't add any other rewards other than just, oh, I have a cool badge. I think it's a great, if they're not gonna add a transmutate, if they're not gonna change the recipes, that is, in my opinion, a great avenue to get people to explore the update beyond just the main storyline and actually get all of their gear. Like, in my opinion, with this many badges, if you do get all of the badges, you should be able to craft at least a hat, robe, boots, and wand from the update for that wizard. I think that's how many reagents they should reward with these. I think that is, in my opinion, the best avenue for them. If they want to keep it kind of rare, kind of keep people like, you know, doing the update in order to get the gear, but also don't want people to feel like they're in some kind of tedious nightmare where they have to get reagent after reagent after reagent. In the meantime, if y'all are trying to get this new reagent, really the only way to get it is through just harvesting Ichor over and over and over again. What I recommend is not doing it in the Outsiders camp, because as y'all can tell, I've been in like 4 or 5 realms this video, and there are people literally taking the Ichor, so I can't do it if I wanted to. So I recommend doing like, you know, like trying to like find any area that has like a couple of spawns, and eventually you'll start to know where it spawns, and you can just keep combing the area over and over again. Keep in mind, the reagent does respawn in the same area. If you find yourself, you know, maybe in a almost empty realm, but you're unable to get reagents, it's probably someone botting it. I hope Wiz clamps down on this. It's another example of a great opportunity for them to actually look at botting and take it seriously. You've seen it in the bazaar, now we're seeing it here. I would love to live in a world where people breaking the rules aren't rewarded more than people that actually don't have any reason to do that to begin with. But I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on y'all's experience with the Ichor reagent. How many aged Ichors per regular Ichor have y'all gotten? What do y'all think about the gear recipes? And what do y'all think about the fact that there's no transmutate recipe? I'm sure Wiz is open to feedback on this. I really hope they do a combination of adding a transmutate and adding badge rewards, because I would love a reason to actually look at how all these new badges work. It would almost be like a wasted opportunity adding all these badges and not adding those rewards. And that was where my mind went when I heard about this first. Like, you know, it would be nice if there was a different way to accumulate a lot of these rare reagents so that the gear feels like you earned it, but doesn't feel like you earned it in this type of weird ass way. But yes, I look forward to reading all of y'all's thoughts in the comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub if you're new, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.